Hello, everybody. This is Jared, the non-alcoholic aficionado, and I'm here today with Kevin Barnes, the head brewer of Beaglepuss. We've got some Beaglepuss beers to talk about and drink today. I've got the Strange Hoppenings Hazy IPA, as well as the Inverse IPA, West Coast style. And Kevin, what do you have?
I've got them apples, dry hop cider, non-alcoholic, of course. We call it New England dry hopped cider. So,
I'm diving right into this Strange Hoppenings Hazy.
yeah.
I did a review of this one a couple weeks ago, and I'll spoiler alert, it got a 5 out of 5 on my rating scale. It was one
Dude,
of the best, if not the best IPAs I've ever had. Well,
wow,
cloudy that
that
is.
is high, high, high praise. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's
Here,
really, really top notch.
and speaking of thank you, I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Definitely. I stumbled upon your LinkedIn a few weeks back and was like, oh no, Beaglepuss, cool. And I had just done my video on Beaglepuss review for the two beers that
Ah,
I got, and I was like, let's strike the chord and get a conversation going. So
I'm
thanks for
very
joining.
happy you stumbled upon it. Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, for the folks that don't know you, could you maybe give a little bit of background about yourself, where you come from, what you're all about?
Yeah, I'm currently based in San Diego, which I know seems weird as being the head brewer of a New England based brewery. But I have a lot of experience making beer, not remotely, but kind of overseeing beer being made in other facilities. Um, and so I've been making beer. I'm in San Diego, like I said. I've been in the industry here for 15 years. The first 9 of those, I was at Green Flash, which is traditional craft brewery, mostly making pretty strong, pretty high octane, high
Yeah.
ABV IPAs, stouts, Belgian beers, things like that.
Cool.
And I got into NA beer 6 years ago. I was approached by a company that wanted to start making non-alcoholic beer, and I had been daydreaming while working at Green Flash. So I worked long hours there, in a hot brewery, and I used to daydream, gosh, if I could just have a beer without the alcohol, an IPA without the alcohol, and I could drink it all day, it would be the
Yeah.
best. And I kind of just like thought, oh, that's just a dream, that'll never happen. And so finally got approached by these guys and thought I could really make this a reality now.
Yeah.
And that was what became Two Roots. So that's where I cut my teeth making NA beer. And then a couple years ago, I was approached by the founder of Beaglepuss, Jared Rogers. He found me on LinkedIn after I was done at Two Roots, and he said, "I got this idea. I want to make I want to make NA beer for craft drinkers." And he's like, "I got this name for it. It's Beaglepuss." And I'm like, "What the heck is that? That's a crazy name. It sounds a little weird, but it's memorable." So he told me, well, the disguise glasses, Groucho Marx glasses, those are called Beaglepuss. And I had no idea. And so
Yeah.
the theme is it's NA beer in disguise as craft beer.
Ah, that
It's
makes sense
NA
now.
beer for the real hardcore craft beer drinkers. And I'm like, dude,
Yep.
let's do this. So yeah. So I linked up with them, him and his partner Pat Ramey. He does all the art, amazing artist, really cool graphics. Stoked on the design. And yeah, we linked up a couple years ago. We finally got beer to market December of 23. So it's been what,
Oh, really?
eight
It's only been
months?
nine
Yeah.
months? I
Yep.
thought it was longer than that. That's crazy.
It feels like it, but
I
we're
feel like
finally
I feel like I've heard so much buzz about it, and I didn't realize it was just because it is so recent. Like you guys have
yeah.
put out some solid product in that short amount
Yeah,
of
thank
time.
you. I mean, we were blown away by the response.
Yes.
Yeah, and just really humbled and just so grateful that people thought the same thing we did, which is these are fantastic products, and it really tastes like drinking, the highest quality kind of beverage you can. So
Yep.
yeah,
Totally. Yeah, I've been a craft beer drinker for a long time and got sober about 5 years ago and didn't have a replacement up until last October when I was like, oh, I bet this wouldn't hurt me. It wouldn't trigger me. It wouldn't cause any problems. And then I reaffirmed that by trying a few different options. And then I was like, I love this. I love the idea of doing what I did in college, which was try a bunch of NA or try a bunch of beer. So
Yep.
then I created the YouTube channel, and here we are 10 months later, and I'm talking with you. So it's
You're
been,
good.
and I think I've tried maybe 115, 120 beers in that amount of time, and it's been a good experience. And I learned a lot about a lot of different offerings. And
Yeah.
like I said, this hazy is top notch. It's up there.
Well, it's really amazing to be able to be a part of this movement where
Yeah,
people can continue to explore. I mean, that's what we love about craft beer is like
yeah,
finding
for sure.
something new, finding what you think is the best, and just providing that for people is who don't want the buzz.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I know it's you probably are well aware people are gravitating towards your product and very similar NA products rapidly right now. It's a
yeah.
changing marketplace. What do you see in terms of trends and preferences in the NA beer market, and how do you guys plan to adapt to meet those trends? I mean, is it
Yeah.
potential new renditions, new flavors, like I guess I'm just kind of curious about that.
Sure. Yeah. So the change has been phenomenal and astronomical. I mean, when I started,
Yeah.
people scoffed, people laughed. You know, they especially other brewers, they made fun of me. Oh, you're gonna go make fizzy barley water, you know? And you know, who's laughing now as you see all
Yeah.
these companies doing so well and
Yep.
people just clamoring for it. So that in itself is a huge change and trend. Um, but I think when especially craft NA started, it was a lot of highly hopped. Obviously, the IPAs are always popular, and the big heavy stouts
Yep.
were the most popular, and the things that people were, raving about the most. But I see this trend in regular craft beer too. As the drinker matures, maybe those things become more of a rarity and a special treat, and you settle in on something that's a little more balanced, a little more drinkable, a little more sessionable. And for us, one of the things we're doing to address that is where our next beer is going to be a Bohemian Pale Lager. And
Cool.
so it's going to try, or it's going to mimic the drinking experience you get if you go to Germany or Czechia, and that
Cool.
lovely malty, noble hop spiced, delicious drink that they love over there and make so well. So
Very
we're stoked.
cool.
Yeah.
I can lament on that. I feel like as of late I've been trying a few more Pilsner styles, lagers, and it's a little, like you said, a little bit more sessionable. And for me, I'm a big sour guy as well, and those are lighter in body as well, and a little bit more sweet. But I still like the dark beers and the heavy hopped, double IPAs and these Beaglepuss offerings as well. So I like them all. I try to play favorites every once in a while. It's like, no, I gotta spread the love. Can't just try one style.
Well, we all appreciate that for sure. Yeah, and I'm with
So
you. I love the IPAs. I love the big hopped ones,
yep.
heavy hopped ones. They just become maybe a little bit more rare sometimes.
Yep. So in terms of process, you don't have to tell me all the secrets, but how do you guys keep it under 0.5%? I know we've got that as the near beer,
Yeah,
non-alcoholic beverage benchmark.
yeah.
How do you do it? Is it challenging when you come out with something new? Does it take a lot of like R&D and lab testing? Like what does that look like?
It does. I mean, it's a challenge. For us at Beaglepuss, we're really going for that full mouthfeel, that heavy, big body
Yep.
mimics the drinking experience of an alcoholic beer. as much as possible. So to achieve that and keep the ABV at the limit it needs to be, it's definitely a challenge. And it took a lot of R&D, and it continues to when we do new products.
Yep.
And it was a pretty steep learning curve for me, having made beer for 4 years at Two Roots, non-alcoholic beer, by dealcoholizing. So
Sure.
I came up with a new process for the Beaglepuss beers, which is not dealcoholized. So these things are fully fermented, but fermented, to only 0.4, 0.45 max ABV. And so it's really just a tweak. It's paying super close attention and being really on top of all of the details of every single part of the process of brewing.
Sure.
You have to relearn how to brew, almost. Unlearn what you thought you knew about making beer to make it differently. And so it's challenging, but it's a fun challenge. I definitely have always been excited about making NA beer because of the challenge of it.
Yep.
And especially, making it A, taste good, and B, taste as close to its leaded counterpart as possible. It's a fun challenge. So, but what we do is, it's kind of cool because we can use a regular brewing equipment. Everything is the same. You don't need any special equipment for our process except for a pasteurizer.
Oh, sure.
Because that is
alcohol.
That is key to making sure there's no re-fermentation and therefore more alcohol than you want in the can. You don't want anything growing in there for safety reasons. You don't want the can exploding, also for safety reasons. So pasteurizing is key. But other than that, it's cool because you can do it in any brewery that the technical use.
So tell me about the strange happenings. Is there a story? Is there something to be said about the hophead guy? Like, what? Tell me about it while I'm finishing it off and switching to the next one.
The name comes because we were developing a New England IPA.
Okay.
But the first few batches came out kind of more like a hybrid between a New England and a West Coast. It had that easy appearance, and it had definitely some fruit characteristics going on in the aroma and flavor, but it had like a bit of a piney, bitter finish.
Sure.
So it kind of didn't fit into either category neatly, the NEPA or the West Coast. And so actually Jared and Pat, my partners, came up with the name Strange Hoppenings because of that. And I think that Pat just went ahead and went with the whole like strange encounters kind of alien concept. And so it was like this alien dude with a hop for a head became the little mascot for it.
Cool.
We really like that beer, and
so good.
You know what? Let's just embrace the weirdness of it. So one day we'll probably come out with a true NEPA.
Yep.
But for now, people seem to like that, and definitely like our West Coast as well. So we're stoked on that.
All right, so Kevin, we've got the Inverse West Coast IPA. Tell me about it. I like this can. It's got this guy doing like a little like yoga move.
Yeah, he's meant to be like a Southern California, a granola type of a guy. And that's a nod really to my brewing past.
Sure.
So, I learned the craft of brewing at Green Flash, and 95% of what we brewed was our West Coast IPA.
Sure.
And it was a malty, like caramel heavy, very, very bitter, orange to amber colored, dry, crisp style IPA. And so, that was kind of that and Stone IPA were kind of what San Diego did for a while. Then the beer started getting lighter in color. and even drier and more tropically aromatic. So that beer is meant to taste kind of like the Stone IPA, the older school style, I guess is what I'm saying. West Coast IPA, really heavy boil bittering hops. It's darker color than like you would see a modern West Coast IPA look like. It's focused on that resiny flavor and that interplay of the caramel and the piney resiny hop flavor. And it's called inverse because that's like a yoga term, so it fit our whole Southern California thing. But also because it's kind of like inverting the trend of how the beers evolved, how West Coast IPAs evolved. They got lighter in color, drier, and we kind of backed it up and went darker, more caramely, more bitter. So
kind of old school.
Very old school, yeah. And that's what I brewed more than anything. So that was when I was daydreaming about making a non-alcoholic IPA. That's what I was envisioning.
So now that you have what you envisioned, do you have it throughout the day? Question.
I don't, but it's only because it costs a lot to ship it out here to San Diego. We don't distribute yet out here. So
you would have to kind of do a special order or get it from the website or do a drop shipment or something?
Which I could do, but there's thirsty fans out there that need it.
So. That's true.
but we're actively looking into starting to distribute out here. So
cool. Are you doing anything in Minnesota?
No, not at the moment. We're super small footprint right now, just New England. We're not even in all New England states yet.
Okay.
So I think we'll probably hit more of the coast first and then go inland. But
got it. So you have a distributor in the New England area that does take you to the liquor stores and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
So we're in right now parts of Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, and Connecticut.
Cool.
So yeah, just our first baby step, basically.
I like to think of this as like you said, kind of caramely, malty, hoppy, but not like overly bitter. It's still kind of sweet. It's just very well rounded.
Yeah.
And a little bit more. I feel maybe a little bit more malty, a little bit more bitter than the hazy IPA.
Yeah, and that's the idea for sure.
Mm-hmm. So what are you drinking there? We haven't talked about what's in your hand.
Yeah, I'm drinking them apples, which is a reference, if you didn't know, from Good Will Hunting. Obviously, apples are a big deal, especially in the fall in New England, and there's a lot of just great fresh pressed juice out there. And my partner Jared asked me when I was developing the beers, could you do a cider?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. How about de-alcoholizing it? And I don't have a de-alc machine for this project. So he's like, all right, well, just think about it. So I started thinking about it. I did some trials with some different techniques. But the more I thought about it, the more realistic it started sounding. And so I kind of dialed in my R&D process over a month or so and was like, all of a sudden, whoa, I think I just cracked the code.
Yeah.
And I found the right hop combination and I found the right mixture of and concentration of juice and sent it to my partners and they were like, bang, let's go.
Yeah.
So it went, it only took a couple months from like, that sounds impossible to, nailed it. So yeah, it's a really cool drink. It's definitely got the hops for, beer fans and IPA fans, but the people who seem to love it the most are non-beer drinkers. My mother-in-law and a lot of women I know who don't drink beer love this thing. And
I'm sure. Yeah.
it's sweet enough. It's not super sweet, but it's sweet enough, and you get that fruit character, obviously from the apple juice. But the hops that I use complement it with a nice tropical component, and it almost kind of drinks like a fruited sour beer.
I tried it last week and it hit on all those items. For me, I used to be a cider drinker. I would have Strongbow with a shot of Fireball. That was our that was my go. And that's a pretty high octane mixture, but hadn't had a good cider until I tried milk and honey cider. I think they're local. And that was pretty good. And then I just had this one last week, and I think the element of the added hops and the little slight twinge of flavor that you get out of that with a little bit of bitterness really just it kind of it collaborates with the sweetness from the juice and the apple flavor, and it's very smooth. Easy drinking. But I'm curious,
thank you.
Is it fermented and then halted, or is it not fermented at all?
That's a good question. I'm trying to decide if I want to.
Oh, then no.
All the secrets. Yeah.
I didn't know, because I know some milk and honey is done through ABV technology and they de-alcoholize their cider. But we don't have to talk about that. It's all good.
Yeah. Well,
so what I'm just thinking here, long term, given the fact that you have so much experience, you've been around in the NA space for 6 years. Where do you see 6 years from now? What's going to happen? Where are we going to be?
Oh, wow. Good question.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So I guess you mean me personally, or with Beaglepuss, or
how about twofold?
Yeah.
Beaglepuss and the NA industry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, dude, 6 years, it's going to be unrecognizable, I think.
Yeah.
For the obvious reason of new players coming and other players growing.
Yep.
Big and small. But what I have been saying about the future of the industry is, now that there's proven success, you're going to see I think you're going to see a lot more money going toward R&D and every aspect of the industry. So from malt, hops, yeast suppliers, equipment manufacturers, just scientists doing different technique experiments and process experiments. So I think we'll see a lot of innovative products. I think we'll see a lot probably of non-alcoholic things that are sort of new creations, not an analog non-alcoholic version of this, that, or the other.
Cool.
I look at the as an example, like hop water.
Oh yeah.
I know
for a while
we would like to get in on that, and we're trying to think of a novel way to approach it. So hopefully something fun from Beaglepuss the next year or so on that end. So, and I've always wanted to get in on the mocktail.
Oh, sure. The ready to drink.
I know that's a controversial term, but RTD, non-alcoholic cocktails. I think there's probably some big future for those kind of drinks too. So.
Yeah, I've been, if I had to divide it up, my time spent on both consumption, discussion, all the above, probably been 85% beer, 5% spirits, and 10% other wine, I guess. But I've had a few RTDs, and some of them they're a little.
Sorry.
Some are a little too sweet for my liking. I think if there was a way to kind of bridge the gap and have something that had the flavor profile like a margarita or an old fashioned or something like that, but wasn't overly sweetened, but they also maybe didn't have the artificial sweetener. So it's like, what avenue do you want to go down? Do you want to be like, ingredient forward and true to taste, or do you want to try to cut back on the flavor or the sweetness? Like, I don't know, where do you see the happy medium, or what's your take on it?
I definitely see the future of less sweet,
Yeah.
drier, less reliance on sugar to make it palatable.
Yep.
My question is, and I don't necessarily have an answer, so I guess my question is, and I'll ask you, do you see more of like making an NA version of a Manhattan or a old fashioned, or do you see like making a whiskey analog in a new flavor being more?
It's tricky because I think, I don't know if you can really de-alcoholize a 35% spirit. I don't know that's a thing yet.
Well, it's difficult.
Maybe.
I'll tell you
that. I think if there was a way to add to
that.
glean the flavor profile of like a rum and put it into a pina colada, flavored mixed drink, like that'd be pretty cool. Or like, I know, like, I think it's Spiritless has like old fashioned and margaritas, and uses their spirit ingredients bases, and those are pretty good. But I think there's innovation to be had. I don't know who's going to do it, where it's going to be done, or what's going to look like. But I think the RTDs, especially in the bars and restaurants, like I haven't seen an RTD in a bar or restaurant, and I've been looking around at expanding reach in Minnesota for non-alcoholic beverages for a while. I think that's going to get, it's going to sink its teeth into the bar scene, because you've got folks that are drinking, their White Claws immediately. That's a transition to White Claw Zero, or whatever, however you slice it. And if you got somebody that's having having one of those, like, oh, I can have a little bit of flavor with it, with, let's say, like a Cool Mox or a Spiritless, or Clever Gin and Tonic. Like, all those are, I think, slam dunks if they're distributed properly into bars and restaurants.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think a lot of that innovation and change might be on that front that we see in a few years.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time, Kevin. We're gonna wrap up here. I'm almost done with my West Coast IPA. I'm gonna savor the last bit of this. Everything you guys are doing is awesome. I'm gonna review the Them Apples on my YouTube channel pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that one. And if anybody wants to check out the Beaglepuss reviews, they will be linked in the description of this video, so check those out. And if you want to try the beers, go to the Beaglepuss website. That'll also be in the description. Check those out. And if anybody has any comments or questions that we want to shuttle towards Kevin, put them in the comments. We'll go from there.
I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers.